You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike.
But I had a relapse.
Say it again.
I was born ready, but I had a relapse.
Welcome into the Psych with Mike library. This is Dr. Michael Mahan, and I am here with Mr. Brett Newcomb.
Once again.
Who's having a relapse.
I've had one.
You had one.
I had one.
And
I got over it.
Yeah. So, you want to share how you got over it?
Hard work, diligence.
Yeah.
Performance.
Yeah. That's the old white Anglo-Saxon Protestant work ethic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you believe in that?
I was trained and raised and deeply ingrained to believe in it.
Yeah, I know.
But I've seen too much random good luck, bad luck stuff happen in the universe that I don't think I believe it. You know, the Pilgrims used to believe that if you were among the elect of God, that would be visible because you'd be living well and have money and comfort. Yeah. And there are today many Christian preachers who promote that same doctrine, that if you do the things God wants you to do, you'll have a Rolex and a Lamborghini and a home in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Just to show the world that God loves you.
Yeah, which is amazing to me considering that, Mother Teresa
Christian
never
theology.
had
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But,
Is it the script or is it the bank account?
Well, hopefully it's the script, although I think that for a lot of people it's the bank account. But, I've struggled with this, and we've talked about this before on the show, that the education is broken, right? You agree with that?
The educational system.
Yes. Educational system is broken.
Yeah.
And there's clearly going to have to be some kind of revamping, whatever, maybe even a foundational tearing it down and reconstructing it. I don't know what it's going to look like.
Bill Bennett wrote a book about that 8 or 10 years ago, talking about, is there any unanimity around the concept of what constitutes an educated person?
Yeah.
So is there a common body of knowledge? Are there a common set of skills, your basic math skills, your science information, your literate awareness, your ability to speak formally and write formally in appropriate English? Are there things that you could presume safely that an educated person would know, should know, does know?
Yeah.
And so he wanted to suggest some things and say, well, I think these are the foundations of that kind of a experience. And the book sold well and got a lot of attention, but nothing seemed to change in the way the educational systems were developed or ran.
Yeah. And, because ultimately, just as in all things, it comes down to money and power and people.
It also comes down to belief systems.
Okay, that's actually
in the community, the cultural belief systems. Do we value it? There are cultures like Japan. There's always a comparison that's made, where school teachers are incredibly well respected, almost sanctified, because of the service they provide to the community and the work they've done and the presumptions that are made about what they know and who they are. In America, educators are not that well paid. In Missouri in particular, they're not that well paid. They're not that widely respected. They often are criticized by politicians as propagandists and mind control enthusiasts who are attacking whatever the cultural value of the politician
You're
is.
more plugged into the educational scene than I am because you were an educator, your wife was an educator. There was a bill in the Missouri House that was up to increase pay for educators.
To raise the minimum amount that school districts have to pay. It passed, and it raised, but we're still in the lower 5. We're in the
that's what I was going to say, but we were at
45th. We were 49th.
That's what I thought,
for starting salaries. And it doesn't affect the way pay systems are done in public school in Missouri. Is there's an index, and you get every year of experience you get a raise. If you acquire more degrees or more educational hours, you reach brackets, you get an additional raise. So there's an index that you can climb the mountain. the trap there is once you have gotten tenure in a school district, once you've acquired 5 years of experience in a school district and they give you tenure, what that means is they can't just randomly fire you because they decided one day he wears green shirts and we don't like that. They have to have a reason, they have to have documentation, they have to have so on. But the way that works then is if you decide, I don't think I like working in ABC school district, I want to move to DEF school district because my wife got transferred and we're going to move to Kansas City. The public schools won't hire you into the district at beyond level 5 on their index. So you run the risk of losing a substantial amount of income and having to climb the ladder again if you have 10 or 15 years of experience, unless you're a coach and they want you to coach a football or baseball or basketball team, and they're willing to bring you in at a higher level on the index. They have the option to do that, but generally they do not do that.
So the educational system, in our opinion, is broken from K all the way through. I'm thinking more in terms of the secondary education and college. Both of us have...
I mean, you have to go back. I mean, the reason that the high school system developed in America, and I'm more knowledgeable about that than I am the elementary, and I think elementary teachers work harder than high school teachers do. And I was a high school teacher for 20 years. I know hundreds of high school teachers, and I would say elementary teachers, and I know hundreds of elementary teachers, they work much harder.
And my son is an elementary teacher, and he would agree with that.
Yeah. But one of the reasons that the system developed the way it did was body storage. We needed to have a place to corral
the
adolescents
Industrial Revolution. I mean, we could,
under supervision. And so you have to fill the time. If you're going to keep them there, you have to fill the time. Then there's not a lot of agreement about how do you do that? Do you teach them mathematics? Do you teach them geography? Do you teach them music? Do you teach them art and dance and debate? What do you teach? And what are they required to have taken in order to get out? And then you have a 6-period day with 50-minute hours. And you have to break your class down, and they don't do tracking or ability grouping. So you have to write a lesson plan if you're a teacher that will occupy 40 students, 45 students in your classroom for 45 minutes. Keep them busy so that they don't have free time to start playing grab ass and scream and yell and horse around and create problems. Then you bring in things like technology, a computer, a laptop, a cell phone, where they can surf the web and text each other and cheat on their tests and so on. And the rules don't allow systems to do much about that, or they try. They'll set up an internet for the school that blocks certain websites, like porn websites. But high school students know how to hack around those. Or if it's blocked on the school-provided internet, it's not blocked on your phone service. So it's just a lot of complexities. And then you have Republicans all around America run around saying critical race theory, it's all about propaganda, it's all about critical race theory. That's not taught in high schools anywhere. It's a university-level concept. It is not taught in high schools. But that they claim that it is, and they get people riled up. But
they're also saying,
like, "Oh my God, we can't have that."
But they're also saying that if you just teach history, if you just teach what actually happened, that's critical race theory.
If you teach about George Washington said, "I cannot tell a lie," which was itself a lie. That story was an artifact that was created by Parson Weems to write books and sell books about George Washington. Washington never chopped down the cherry tree and never said, "I cannot tell a lie. It was I." Didn't happen. And there are lots of examples like that that we can point to.
But my reason for bringing this up is that I am concerned that there are a lot of people who are graduating from institutions, whether they're high schools or they are post-secondary institutions, with fewer options than their parents had with that same level of education. I will say for me, when we talk about should student loan be forgiven and all that other stuff, the bottom line is, for me, my education provided a life that I would not have been able to access had I not been educated. I think you feel the same way.
I absolutely do.
That it was a golden ticket out of poverty.
But it was a window in time.
And that's what I'm wondering is
closed.
Is it closed?
So. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, depending. I mean, if you have specific marketable degrees, marketable skills right now. If you have skills to market once,
Right.
you can grow yourself.
But nobody cares if you went and got a liberal arts education. I mean, that used to be a thing that people cared about and thought was in and of itself a good
I was told in school, don't get an education degree. Don't get a Bachelor of Science in Education or a Master of Science in Education, because if you get an education degree, you're always hamstrung. People will look at you in the job market and say, well, you should be a teacher. We're not going to hire you because you'll become one. So I got a Bachelor of Arts in politics, and I got a Master of Arts in counseling. I don't know if it affected my ability to get a job outside of education or not, one way or the other. But that's what the script was when I was in school and when I first began to work.
And one of the things that you had mentioned was now the injection of technology into the classroom.
Yeah.
And you and I have been around since before technology was injected in the classroom. We were actually seminally a part of.
I was around when this was technology. in the classroom.
You were holding up a pen.
Yeah.
And we actually worked in cooperation with a lot of the St. Louis school districts and actually even nationwide on policies governing the very beginnings of bringing technology into those classrooms. And what I'm wondering is, from your expert vantage point, how has technology changed the way that we do school? Has it made it better? Has it made it worse? Has it made it harder? Has it made it easier?
I think the answer to that would be a standard answer about technology in any field. When it's new, the proponents of it say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and it'll change the world. The opponents of it will say, oh my God, it's horrible, it's going to change the world.
Right. Right.
You flip a coin. There are good things about having that technology. The ability to write a paper and not have to use 6 pieces of copy paper and type it and erase all 6 of those if you make an error.
Right.
You can just go back on the computer screen and erase or correct or substitute a word. If you can't spell, they have spell check. There are all kinds of things that can benefit your production capacity because of the technology. But there are also all kinds of things that can distract you. For instance, we taught, both of us, in graduate programs, which had evening classes after people had worked all day. We're coming back to graduate school to get additional education. So they were tired, and they'd had long days, and they'd done their jobs or whatever. Then they'd come into class, and they'd set up their computers, and you'd be lecturing or trying to have a discussion about some particular topic, and they'd be checking their baseball scores or their emails or whatever they were doing, watching porn movies or what have you. I remember having conversations with my students. If you are a therapist and you have clients in front of you, you're paid to be on the clock. You're paid to be aware and focused, and you have a life too. So you may be tired, maybe you didn't sleep well, maybe your dog is sick, maybe your wife's asked for a divorce, maybe you can't pay your bills. You're fretting over all those things just like your clients are. But when the client is in front of you, your job is to park all that, pay attention to the client, and hear the things that you need to hear, that they need you to hear, that they're paying you to hear. So you have to train yourself how to do that. And I would say to them, this is your opportunity to learn that skill. You turn off your distractors and pay attention to what we're doing and make yourself do that so that you can learn how to make, not because I'm brilliant, not because my lectures are awesome, and even though they may well be, but because I would say so. This is a skill you have to learn. In order to do the job. And if you're taking this series of coursework to qualify you to do the job, the presumption when you graduate is you'll have the skills to do the job.
Right.
This is how you learn them. This is where you learn them.
And I've struggled with the idea of getting a smartwatch because I think I would love that, but I am concerned that if I had a smartwatch and it was buzzing me every time I got an email, I would glance at that when I was doing therapy.
You driving?
And that would be
doing therapy.
And that would not
turn those off.
And I don't care about the driving part, but
I do.
Well, I know, but
you're trying to read an email and drive in traffic.
I'm just joking, but I that's the reason why I don't have a smartwatch is because I don't want it to.
Yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I turn my phone off.
Heal thyself.
Because if I hear my phone buzz, it distracts distracts me. If it distracts me, then it's distracting my client. And so I try and be aware of those things and minimize those potential distractors. And that smartwatch would just be too much catnip for me.
Yeah. Well, you get into discussions about, do you have a clock visible in your therapy room?
Right.
Because your clients and you will both be looking at it, and there's a phenomenon in therapy where the client will do a late session reveal of traumatic material in an effort to get more time,
Right.
Or to vomit and run. So if they can watch the clock, they'll stall and chat. How about those Cardinals? Can you believe
Right.
that this year? What do you think about Pujols? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that my mother died?
And there's any number of reasons why they might do that. They might do that to try and manipulate to see if they can get more time, if they're special to you. But they also might do that because they're going to drop something that they're not ready to process.
Right. And so then
but they want you to know about it.
And run.
Right.
Yeah. Park it with you.
Yeah. Okay, let's run to our break. And when we come back, I'm going to change tracks, but I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
If you've gotten this far into the show, then obviously you find the show to be worthwhile, beneficial, maybe even helpful. And so I just wanted to say, if you've gotten this far into the show and you want to help us out, even if you don't want to help us out, just do it anyway. Go to Apple Podcasts and rate us and leave a review. That is super helpful. Subscribe to the show on YouTube and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications when new shows drop. That stuff is really, really helpful for us. And I know that Mr. Brett agrees.
Absolutely. Reviews are positive. Positive reviews are more positive, but negative ones are as well, because it helps you decide how to focus and how whatever you're intending to say is being heard.
And the secret is the algorithm doesn't care whether the review's positive or negative.
As our friend Mike Norton says regularly, feedback is a gift.
If it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike. Okay, you had said something earlier before we had turned on the mic. So ideally, this episode is really about attention and about my fear that some of the things that we are doing in society are either artificially or organically reducing the attention span of human beings. And I think the place where that most profoundly is going to manifest is in education. That's why we had started talking about education. But you had said earlier, that's the difference between attention and discipline. And I had said, oh, aren't they the same thing? And you said no. And I said, hold on to that, because I want you to talk about that.
Well, what we talked about just before the break is an explanation of that. When you said, I don't have a smartwatch because I don't want to get distracted when I'm with a client or when I'm driving a car. That's a function of discipline. You have to discipline yourself to ignore that distraction. You have to train yourself not to respond to the stimuli, because the stimuli will intrude. You get a ding or a dong or a buzz or something that says, hey, over here, look. And you have to teach yourself not to do that. So the ability to do that satisfactorily is a matter of discipline. The attention and the things that get your attention. I remember reading a study years ago that they did on public television about Sesame Street. And they worked on sound and movement and lighting as a way to focus where the attention needed to go. And it's a fascinating study. But the point being that the producers of media know that information and know how to grab your attention.
Right.
Then they work on trying to hold it.
Yeah, and Sesame Street had done that specifically for individuals between the ages of birth and kindergarten.
Right.
That was their target audience. So ideally, adults have a longer attention span than 5-year-olds, ideally. But even that...
I got distracted.
Even that has been reducing in a trackable, traceable way. And one of the articles that I had sent you showed that Microsoft was tracking this, and they've seen a 2-second decrease in adult attention span over the course of the last 2 years. So it's gone from 10 seconds to 8 seconds over the course of 2 years. What that is telling me is that the technology that we have attached ourselves to is causing us to focus more and pay attention less. So there's more.
Or focus differently.
Okay.
And one of the challenges of a classroom teacher at any level is to hold the attention of the class. You have to sing and dance, you have to perform, you have to modulate your voice, your delivery, your presence. You have to have things that pop and grab their attention, and then try to hold it if you can get it. Mm-hmm. With other distractors being present. Can you be the dominant distractor?
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, you can, like the Luddites, you can curse technology and say, oh my God, it's terrible. Look at the bad things it's doing. I think it's a matter of learning how to live with and manage the technology and to adapt. And we're going through that adaptation. I find, and I read a lot. I read aggressively, extensively, continually. But I find that a lot of the articles, for instance, that you send me to say, well, let's discuss this topic on the podcast, I skim through them because the verbiage of the writers, they're so busy painting a complex picture that they don't make salient points. And I'm looking for salient points. I've trained myself to do that. So what I want to know is, what are your conclusions? What's your supporting foundation of facts? And why should that matter to me?
Right.
And you're putting in paragraphs full of flowery language that make you sound really smart and erudite, which I'm doing right now. I'm just milking
not me personally.
Whoever the writer
author.
is. Yeah. We all are prone to that.
Yeah.
But the recipient processing the data is like, cut to the chase.
But
what's your point?
But the reason, well, and so that's another good point, because that's really why I did this episode. Is I've gotten many comments on the show that says, oh, you didn't actually start talking about the topic
until
5 minutes or 10 minutes in. And I'm like, look, okay, so first off,
it's my show.
It's my show. I do what I want.
Exactly.
So but everybody says
nuances and cues.
But everybody says the material is fantastic, but I got to wait a while to get to it. And I'm like, you should be able to do that as a grown human being.
You should be able to, and probably are able to. Choose not to.
And so if you choose
saying
not
back, hey,
to,
you know what? I've got other distractors.
That's
My phone's
fine.
ringing. The guy's at the front door with the delivery from Amazon. Well, I want to listen to you.
Exactly. And I'm not doing this show for you necessarily, individual listener. I'm doing it because we like it, because we think we have good information and we want to share it. But if your attention span is so brief that it gets in the way to have the lead in, I think that's a situation that the individual should think about. There are plenty of times in life where a good attention span can be the difference between success and failure.
But it's a selective skill. It's a selectively applicable skill. The challenge to me, I don't necessarily disagree with you, I'm just saying whoever the individual is needs to make their own decisions about how to invest. It's one of those emotional economic things again. You have so much attention to give. How are you going to invest your attention? Are you going to invest it on playing Scrabble or Wordle? Are you going to invest it on learning the next element of your job for job security? Are you going to invest it in managing your money appropriately? Are you going to invest it in wandering around Target looking for something to buy because you're bored? You have to decide.
And I don't disagree with that at all, but I think that somebody in our society needs to start talking about this issue and saying to people, you have that volitional choice. And we need to start thinking about, are we investing our attention in the ways that we feel like would be most productive, most beneficial for us as individuals, or are we not?
But see, I don't think we're taught that externally by the system. The system consistently says, I know, I'm the teacher at the head of the class. I'm the one that knows everything. I'm going to give you what you need to know. Pay attention.
Yeah.
They're not taught to say, okay, you got 5 teachers here today. Which one of them has something that's of interest to you that you already have decided or understand why this is of interest to me? So you be sure that you pay attention there.
Yeah.
We're just a voice in the crowd.
Well, and to me, it's the same or similar to the obesity crisis. You can eat good food,
Yeah.
but it's more expensive. Or you can buy really processed food that's horrible for you, but is cheap. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be opposite. Good food should be cheaper than well-processed food, but it's not. And so you have to make the choice as a person. Which of those areas of the supermarket are you going to shop in? And I agree, it's that individual's choice. And society
So
is
again,
not giving
psychologists
us.
will tell you though that the supermarkets know that.
Yeah.
I mean, all the diet people tell you, go around the outside of the supermarket
Mm-hmm.
where they keep all the fresh stuff. Don't go up and down the aisles because you will get distraction. The marketing people learn how to put packaging
Yeah.
that'll draw your attention.
Sure.
So, I mean, they've done studies. They set camera up on the aisle. They create false packages. They send shoppers down, and they see which ones they look at, which ones they pick up, how long they hold them, what size, what color, what labeling, what words to use, and they know. And so you learn, okay, I want to go get some Hershey's candy that's in the candy aisle. Candy aisle's over here, number 3. I'm going to go down the third aisle and get some candy. And then you go to the store one day, and the third aisle is bread.
Yeah.
And you say, where's the candy? And
Yeah.
they say, oh, it's aisle 8. Because they move that stuff around to force you to move up and
go.
down the aisles because you'll make more impulse buys. Yeah, you shouldn't go to the grocery store when you're hungry because you'll find impulse
Right.
items to say,
Right.
oh, I wonder what that's like. I'll try that. I mean, there are things, chess games that are being played by people who want your attention and your money and you who have attention and money to give. So where are you going to spend it?
And I guess my
So, but anyway,
concern
I
is-
got distracted.
okay.
What I wanted to say is, we don't approach education from the standpoint of saying to kids, you need to make choices. You're making choices right now. Your behavioral impulse is to go punch your sister. That's a choice. You can choose to indulge it. You can choose not to. The cost of that choice is X, Y, or Z. So you need to be aware that you're making a choice. This didn't just happen to you.
Right. Well, okay, but beyond that, what my concern is that we now know this. We have enough studies to be able to say conclusively that the use of technology is creating an artificial reinforcement system, much like Pavlov and his dogs. When we hear the ding of the
It can be.
notification,
There are
we
dangers to it.
we get dopamine in the
Yeah.
reward centers of our brain, which is a biological process we can't force ourselves to be immune to. So I'm wondering, is this what you're talking about? The difference between attention and discipline is you have to fight that dopamine surge
Or
that you know you're going to
be
get.
selectively aware. I can get it over here in category A, or I can get it over here in category B.
Yeah.
Which is better for me? Which do I really want to spend my time on? Do I want to watch porn movies, or do I want to turn them off and talk to my wife? There are studies that show now that a lot of married couples who are not having intimate relationships with each other are individually watching pornography on screens, laying next to their partner.
Right.
So you have to make the choice.
So
which
let's-
one of these dopamine surges
Right.
is better for me to experience?
So
and which one do I want?
Let's spend the last couple of minutes thinking about, what would we say to people if somebody came to our office and said, look, you guys are completely right. My attention span is short and I spend it doing things that I don't find are productive. What do we say to people to try and help them analyze that better, make different choices?
I think you normalize it. Yes, that's happening. It's happening to a lot of people. It's real. You put your finger right on the problem. I think you suggest that there's an element of choice and response power that they
So
can
talk to me
choose
about
use.
your thing about responsibility and responsibility.
So when I was working with clients, I would try to make the distinction between the ability to respond. You
Right.
have the ability to make a choice, and the responsibility, IBILITY, that people felt was placed upon them. It's more of a burden. It's more of an expectation that they will perform a certain way. So I said the system in your life imposes the responsibility on you. You can choose to have a responsibility to that. You can say, yeah, you know what? I embrace that. I support that. For instance, you have a responsibility to support your child, to feed them and clothe them and house them. So that means you have to do certain things to make enough money to pay the bills to support your child. That's a responsibility that the system says you have. As a parent, you can say, you know what, by God, I have that. I'll take that, but I take it as a responsibility. I have the power to do that. I have the discipline, the energy to do that. I intend and want and desire to do that. Or you can look at it a different way, and I can impose on you. You have a responsibility to be at work 30 minutes before your shift begins and stay after your shift begins to make me the boss happy. And you can say, no, I don't. I work when the clock starts. I go home when the clock stops. One of the complexities of that, talking about attention span, bringing this full circle, is now because of the media that we have, people go home from work and they check in at their work emails. They take phone calls from work. They get responses to work. So the nuances of clock time get lost.
And obviously some of that has been impacted by the pandemic and people working remotely, and we don't know where that's going to go.
Corporations and human resources systems, though, are well aware of that, and they have to develop policies regarding it. And the more modern corporations that are up to snuff are saying to their employees, when you go home, go home. You need social time. You need time away from the clock. You need time to rejuvenate yourself, because that makes you a better employee and a happier person. So stop checking your phone at work, at home, your work phone at home. Those companies that are not more modern and progressive are like the boss says, hey, when I call you at 7 p.m., you need to answer the phone. Because I need something or I wouldn't be calling you, and I'm the boss.
So I don't know that we've resolved anything. I think we got
distracted
looking at but I think we're looking at the context of a problem that is going to be shaped over the next several years. I don't know that this is the way that the problem's going to look 5 years from now, because for a couple of reasons. Number one, the pandemic is over, people are going back, and so that's going to change some of what we're talking about, going back to the office. But number two, we don't know what kind of technology is going to come into the workplace.
But at the end of the day, the message is still the same. The message is, if you don't write your own script,
then somebody else is writing it
for you. Write one for you. So you have to learn how to give yourself permission to write your own script. How do you choose to invest your time and your energy and your focus? And do you get the payoff that you expect?
Amen.
So
the music that appears in Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue. If you want to do us a solid, you can do that by going to the internets and finding us on the YouTubes and subscribing to the show. That is super, super helpful for us.
If you agree or disagree, reach out. We want to hear.
Yeah, we would love for people to contact us and let us know whether they agree, disagree, or just have questions.
Have something to say.
Yeah. You can also go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to us and leave us a comment and a rating. That helps other people find the show. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.